Welcome to this session. My name is Barbara Gochalia. Today we are going to look at how to set up a dynamic organization structure. How to set up a dynamic organization structure, right? So this is our chapter overview. And in this chapter, we are going to look at the end of this chapter, basically, you should be able to know and explain what a dynamic structure, a dynamic organization structure is, and how it helps to expand businesses. You'll also be able to distinguish among different types of organization structures, as well as getting to know their advantages and disadvantages. Then you'll also be able to map the organizational structure, current structure, and then you should also be able to develop a blueprint or a plan for a more dynamic organization structure. And then also you should be able to know how to optimize these organization structures. So when we talk about an organizational structure, basically we are talking about a group. We are talking about a group of people, that are working for an organization to be able to meet its goals. Of course, we know that organizations have a number of different goals. Some of them have a goal of profit maximization. Others have a goal of sales maximization, output maximization, business growth, shareholders maximization, among others, right? So with an organization structure, we are simply looking at an organization structure. We are simply looking at that kind of structure that helps in the division of labor, right? That helps in the specialization of labor, right? So these organization structures, depending on the way they are categorized, at the end of the day, they are aimed at, the essence of these organization structures is to achieve division of labor. And dynamic means flexible. So they are basically organization structures that are flexible to allow for division of labor, right? So these organization structures can either be vertical or horizontal, right? So when we are talking about vertical and horizontal differentiation of division of labor, for vertical, basically we are looking at that structure which will have a format whereby we have right from the top head up to other levels in form of hierarchy, right? Other levels of functions but in form of hierarchy. For example, from the top manager up to the last worker, maybe a sweeper in an organization. That is vertical differentiation of division of labor. Then horizontal differentiation. This one basically involves categorizing tasks into functions, and then those functions are grouped into positions that are later on also categorized further to departments. So with the vertical, we are looking at a hierarchy and authority among different levels in an organization, right? For example, from the top manager up to the last worker, maybe the sweeper, that is vertical. Then horizontal, we are looking at tasks that are categorized into functions, and then functions after into positions, and then positions further categorized to departments, right? So dynamic means flexible, right? So dynamic organization structure, these are flexible structures that help in the integration of division of labor, right? So with the division of labor, we mean that the tasks are shared among different individuals in an organization. So these dynamic organization structures, they help businesses to be able to identify their strengths, their strengths, and their opportunities and their threats, right? And to be able to work in terms of being ahead of their possible competitors. So how does the dynamic organization structure help to expand a business? How? First of all, it's flexible. Dynamic means flexible. So a dynamic organization structure, we are going to realize later on that it is flexible and adapts quickly to changing conditions. And it's very easy to adjust these structures. So it's flexible, and this helps it to be quick to adjust to changing condition. Secondly, it is simple, right? So of course, we are going to see the different types of this organization structure, but especially when it has minimum levels of hierarchy, it is simple. Then it is decentralized, and the decentralization brings about decision making. It facilitates the decision making process. By decentralization, when we talk about centralization is that kind of vertical differentiation of division of labor that you've looked at, where we are looking at, for example, decisions are coming from the top head, maybe the top level manager, and there is the one directing these other level managers up to the last worker in an organization. That is centralization. But with the decentralization here, it involves sharing of ideas for the final decision making. The orders will not come for decentralization. The orders will not come from above, but rather everyone will be a participant in terms of contribution to decision making, right? And then it helps in communication between these employees. You know, when these dynamic organization structures are in place, the communication will be easier than when there is totally no organization for these companies, right? So we basically have three common types of organization structures. For small and medium enterprises, we have the functional structures, we have the divisional structures, and we have the hybrid structures. Hybrid means a combination, yeah? So hybrid is going to combine both the functional structures and divisional structures. So let us look at functional structures. Like the name goes, function, right? So these functional structures, basically, they are in that level of tasks, yeah? So for example, here we have at the top of the hierarchy, we have the manager, who is the owner, and then we have other departments below that. We have the production department and the marketing or sales department. Of course, it could be other, there could be other departments depending on the type of organization, but practically what we need to know about functional structures is that they apply for small businesses, right? So a functional structure is basically applicable for small businesses, right? So this function, it being a functional structure, it is basically, these functions are categorized into departments, right? Of course, each department, depending on its name, will have different. For example, the production department, right? It is useful in that process of converting the input into the output, isn't it? Then the marketing sales department, of course, they help in marketing and think to it that these final products reach the final consumer. So what are the advantages of functional organization structures? One of them is that they are efficient and cheap. Yeah, it being that they apply for small organizations. Of course, they are not complex. So at the end of the day, they are cheap. And being cheap, being efficient means that it involves low cost, it involves high output at the least possible cost. So they are cheap. Then secondly, these functional structures they help in allocation of responsibilities, right? Of course, these functions, we've seen that they are categorized further into departments, and of course, each department has a number of responsibilities that they do, right? So it helps these workers to be able to know their responsibilities. It categorizes the similar responsibilities in different departments, right? And then these employees under these departments, under this function organization structure, they get an opportunity to learn, right? To learn, to basically gain experience in the way they do their tasks, right? In other words, it helps them to specialize. And of course, we know that specialization at the end of the day increases productivity. Of course, we are looking at productivity in terms of increase in sales, in terms of increase in total output produced, right? So with specialization, specialization means that different workers, each worker is doing a task that they can best, the way they best know how. In other words, every employee is using their skills to make sure that they achieve the best output for the organization specialization, right? Then these functional structures, they help managers to supervise. Of course, each department here has a manager handling it, right? And at the end of the day, these managers are able to handle, they are able to handle and control these departments. What are the disadvantages of a functional organization structure, right? So we've already seen that functional organization structures are applicable for small organizations, but in a scenario where we are having complex organizations like the information technology service providers, the functional structure will not work, right? Complex organizations. So of course, this we are going to see that even the choice of the choice of the organization structure that you should be choosing depends on a number of factors, one of which includes the size of the organization. So these functional structures are basically not applicable for complex organization. And secondly, also, at the end of the day, we realize that with the functional structures, it only has emphasis and accumulation of decisions to be taken by top level hierarchy. In other words, it is a vertical kind of division of labor, a vertical differentiation of division of labor, where we see that, for example, if it's in terms of decision making, it is the top level manager at the top of the hierarchy who is managing decisions. So practically, it is a centralized kind of hierarchy. And we know that centralization, at the end of the day, does not give a chance for these other employees in the organization to contribute towards decision making. It becomes autocratic, or autocratic in nature, or what we call dictatorship. Then still for functional organization structures, the problem arises when new functions come in. Of course, as we've already seen that it only applies for small organizations. So in scenarios where new functions are coming in and therefore new departments, it ceases to be effective, right? So that was organization. That was functional organization structures. The second type of organization structures is what we call divisional structures. Divisional structures. Now, for divisional structures, like the name goes, it involves categorizing. It involves categorizing, categorizing, or I would simply call it categorizing departments, or categorizing functions in the perspective of products, in the perspective of customer, right? Customer needs, and in the perspective of markets, or even geographical needs, right? So with the division structures here, we are forming, for example, departments, right? In the perspective of products. So we categorize functions in terms of, we categorize functions or departments in terms of products, in terms of, we can categorize them in terms of customer needs, customers that the organization is serving, or in terms of meeting the geographical, particular customers in a specific geographical area. So among divisional structures, we have basically three types of divisional structures. Right? So we have, among divisional structures, we have product structure. Product, of course, when I talk about structure, I mean product organization structure, right? So with the product organization structure here, we are going to realize that it involves, of course, divisional structures. They are used, they are applicable for large organizations, right? For large organizations. And in this perspective, with a product organizational structure, it will involve an organization that is producing different products and services, that is producing one or more products and services. And in this perspective, or in that regard, it means that these are, for example, departments, right? These departments, or the managers are going to, we are going to have different, for example, line managers that are managing the different products and services, the different products or services that are produced, right? For example, it could be maybe a cosmetics company that is producing a number of products. Maybe it's manufacturing maybe the jelly, right? Maybe the petroleum jelly. It's manufacturing the lotions. It's manufacturing the, what is it called? The women, are they called braids, right? So those are different products for the same company. So at the end of the day, each product is going to be managed by a different manager here, right? So that is in terms of product organization structure. Are we together? So at the top of the hierarchy, we have the manager, who is the owner, and then the next the hierarchy, we have these departments. For example, the finance and accounting department, the marketing department. There could be also other departments, right? Maybe the human resource department, depending on how big the organization is. But, and then at the end of the day, below these departments, we have line managers, right? For each product, and under each product, we have, of course, we have other departments. We have, for example, the production department and the sales department for each this line manager for maybe product 1, and then for product 2 we also have a line manager that and under this line manager we have the production department and the sales department, which has the sales representative. But important for us to note is that with these divisional structures, divisional organization structures, and in this regard, the product organization structure, we realize that these departments like the finance, these departments are like the finance and accounting department, the marketing department. They will support all these. They will support all these other. They will support all these other, I should say, departments or functions of this organization. So they work together. They work in collaboration with all these other line managers that are managing these different products, right? That is important for us to note for divisional organization structures. So that's how a product organization structure looks like. Then it's still under division organization structures. We have the customer organization structure. The customer organization structure. This will also be categorized. It will also be categorized in regard to the different customers of the organization. So you'll find different managers, line manager 1, line manager 2, line manager 3, each manager handling a section of customers, a section of clients. So that's how the division of labor comes in, right? For customer organizational structure. Then we have the geographic organizational structure, and like the name goes, here still it will be divided. It will be divided or categorized into for example, different branches. Different branches. This is where you find an organization having different branches. For example, in different areas, different locations, maybe within the same country, right? So maybe it could be a bank, but this bank has different branches, and each branch has a bank manager or a branch manager. And of course, here we are looking at a product kind of business where we're seeing production workers, but it could also be a service organization, a service company like a bank where they offer financial services, right? So that is how a geographical organizational structure looks like. So we shall have, for each branch, we shall have a branch manager, and each branch, if it's in the production, in the manufacturing of products, for example, it will have the production section and the sales section, where we shall have the sales representatives, right? So with the divisional organization structures, they are complex in a way that here we realize that now we are having different, each branch is having a department, right? So that is the complexity of divisional organization structure. What are the advantages of divisional organization structure? One of them is that they are the fact that they are divided into that they are usually in smaller divisions. They are more dynamic and easy to control, right? The complexity of, for example, these many branches, each branch having a manager, helps the organization to control these different branches, right? And then at the end of the day, these division organization structures, they help in solving a number of problems, right? For example, a number of problems of an organization, despite the complexity, right? The complexity of these organizations. For example, you could find that maybe you could find that there are high transportation costs of transporting these products to the final user. But if we have different branches spread all over the country, then it reduces on those transportation costs. So it also helps coordination and control easy. It makes these division structures have a greater autonomy. In other words, they are independent, and it helps in the control and coordination despite the complexity of the organization. And then, like you've already seen, that these departments like marketing, finance department, research and development, they'll work in support of all these for example, branches, if it is in terms of geographical structure. So they do not work in isolation, but rather they work in support of all these other departments. All right. And then also here there is we realize that there is flow of information, right? With these this division of labor for these division organization structures helps in the communication, the interaction, basically the flow of information. What are the disadvantages of this divisional organization structure? So given the fact that it's complex, it becomes costly, because if you're categorizing these organizational structures in terms of product, market, or geographical division, it is complex, and at the end of the day, it's going to be costly. Yeah, it's going to be costly because we are having a duplicate of, for example, production and sales departments, especially in terms of differentiation according to products, according to customers, according to geographical locations. So we have a duplication of departments, and at the end of the day, it's going to be costly or expensive. So even when it comes to specialization, these employees will not get really what I should call maybe a thorough development of their skills, in a way that if, for example, it's just in terms of product kind of structure, product organization structure, then a worker who is under a line manager of a particular product will only gain skills in regard to that product, and will not get an opportunity of gaining skills in regard to other maybe manufacturing or selling other products. And then finally, under the divisional organization structures, we have the hybrid structures. Hybrid means a combination. So with hybrid organization structures, it is basically a combination of the two. It is a combination of functional organization structures and divisional organization structures. So how does it look like? How does this hybrid organization structure look like when we have a combination of both, functional and divisional organization structure? So this is how it will look like, right? That's how it will look like. At the top of the hierarchy, we have the manager, who is the owner. And then next, for example, here, what do you realize? Here, what you realize is that we are having a combination of geographical structure, right? Geographical organization structure, because we have seen that with geographical organization structure, we are looking at different locations. If there are branches, if it's a bank, it's having different branches in different geographical locations. So this is a combination of a geographical organization structure, which is practically under the divisional organization structure. And what do you realize also here? We realize that it is also a combination of the functional organization structure, because we have these different departments. These different, of course, the departments come from the functions. The functions come from the tasks, right? So it is a combination of the functional organization structure here, which I can call 1-1, and it is also a combination of the geographical organization structure, which is under the division organization structure, right? And then here, what do you realize here? We are also seeing that under each branch is handling a different customer segment, a different customer segment here. And of course, we've seen that with categorization of division structure, we had what we call customer organization structure. So it's also a combination of divisional organization structure in form of customer organization structure. So this is how a hybrid organization structure looks like. I've not got any questions so far. So somehow I'm thinking that we are on the same page. Are we on the same page?
Yeah.
All right. Now, the question is, how do we set up a dynamic organization structure? So it involves basically three steps to set up a dynamic organization structure. And step one is mapping your current organization structure. I believe, is there anyone here who is a human resource manager somewhere? Because I don't want to look like I'm giving a lot of theory, and yet there are people here to tell us, to contribute, isn't it? Such that we even get to know that as we sit in those offices of ours under the umbrella of human resource manager, we get to know the logic behind the things that we are doing at our workplace. Because we might be doing them because we need to do them to get the salary, but at the end of the day, we need to get the logic behind why we do those tasks. So mapping your current organization structure is basically getting to know the type of organization structure that your company or your business has. And then secondly will be to develop a blueprint for a more dynamic organization structure. A blueprint is like a roadmap or a plan. Yes, you develop a plan for a more dynamic, of course, a more dynamic organization structure. And then lastly is to optimize your organization structure. Optimizing is improving it, working on it, right? Making it, boosting it, right? So number one, developing a dynamic organization structure, mapping your own organization structure. So within this mapping, what you can do is number one, you write on a paper the names of all employees and the tasks each one of them performs, right? So that is the number one simple step. Write down the names of these employees and then the tasks they are performing. And then after you have written those employees and their tasks, categorize or group those tasks by functions. Of course, we know that functions arise from tasks. Functions arise from tasks. And for example, there you'll be able to know what functions you'll be able to group, to categorize those employees according to their tasks. And of course, at the end of the day, you will know what they are. For example, if they are selling products, then you have to categorize them under the what? Under the function of what? If they are salesmen, right? Then they are doing that function of doing what? Selling the products. Are we together? If they are under the category of managing money, then you will know that that function is doing what? Yes. So of course, at the end of the day, we know that these functions are later going to be categorized into what we call a department. For example, these salesmen will be under the sales department, right? And then if these people are maybe doing the packaging of the final product, operating machines during the production process, those ones will be working under the production department. If the person is working as a cashier, right? A cashier, what else? Then those ones will be under the finance accounting department. Most of these combined finance and accounting and finance. Others will just call it the finance department. But of course, at the end of the day, I think the story is the same, isn't it? Then if, for example, we have a receptionist, yeah, these people that receive customer calls, those ones will be under customer service. And if it's these people that do the recruiting, they are called the human resource managers. Those ones will be under the human resource department. And if they are researchers, they will be under the research and development or the R&D department, and so on. So most of these names of these departments practically come from the functions performed by these workers. So for example, at the end of the day, you will be able to know that we have the sales department, your company has a production department, the finance department, right? And you'll be able to categorize those departments. Of course, at the end of the day, you must know that each department should above the top of the hierarchy, we have the owner or the manager. And you may find that if it's a complex organization, each department has a manager. For example, a sales manager, productions manager, some of them call them financial controllers, right? So of course, now at the end of the day, now you will draw these lines that are linking these departments. And of course, the departments, under each department, we shall have the staff. For example, under the sales department, the sales department is controlled by the sales manager, the productions department by the productions manager, and similarly for the finance department. And under each department, we will of course have employees. We have employees, right? So that was mapping, that was mapping, right? So mapping the organization structure. Number 2 is develop a blueprint for a more dynamic structure. So developing a blueprint is the plan, right? Is practically now looking at the kind of organization structure you have, analyze it, and depending on different factors that you are going to discover, you'll be able to know what kind of organizational structure fits your organization or your business, right? So to be precise is that you should know, number 1, you should know the size, right? You should know the size of your business. You should look at the growth stage. Of course, when we've been looking at the different organization structure, we looked at the functional organization structure, and who remembers what we've seen? We've seen that these functional organization structures are applicable for small organization. So if it's a small organization, there you need to use the functional organization structure. But of course, we know that if the business has expanded, it has different branches, then there you'll have no alternative but to apply the divisional structure. Then also you need, as a business, you need to identify the strengths and the weaknesses of your business, right? So you don't just wake up one morning and you're like, yes, it should be this kind of organization structure. No, you analyze, look at the size of your business, look at the strengths and the weaknesses of this of your business. For example, you could find that there is a communication gap, right? And we've seen that there is a communication gap. Of course, you may need to maybe to use a divisional kind of structure. You could find that maybe there are a lot of complaints from your clients, and you need to meet these of course to work towards satisfying customer needs. So at the end of the day, you end up maybe opting for a customer organizational structure. Then, of course, these organization structures are they are determined according to the strategy of the business. According to the strategy of the business. For example, we are going to realize that if it is a low-cost strategy, the business has a strategy of minimizing costs, like a low-cost a business that is focused on minimizing costs. Then, of course, at the end of the day, it will have to use a functional organization structure, because we've seen that functional organization structure apply for small businesses, and one of their advantages is that it is cheap and efficient to use functional organization structure. Why? Because they are not complex. Whereas we've seen that with division organization structures, for them, they are at the end of the day, it is costly. Because there is duplication of functions, duplication of departments. So you look at all those, right? That is making a blueprint of the organization structure. So let's look at the growth strategies for these organization structures. Number 1, we've already looked at this. We've seen that we have organization structures that have a strategy of low cost, of minimizing costs, right? And of course, we've seen that that these are called growth-oriented enterprises, GOE, right? So of course, we've seen that if it is the business is aiming at low cost, right? Minimizing costs, it is going to apply, it is going to be in the direction of functional organization structure. Then there are those organizations that aim at, they have a strategy of supporting of what we call this the depreciation strategy. They have the depreciation strategy, and with the depreciation strategy, practically here we are looking at these organizations that aim at depreciating their products from their products and services from their competitors, right? Of course, in order to capture the market. So the depreciation, of course, comes along with is the result of the research and development, right? Researching and applying research and development to come up with either new product to differentiate these products from your competitors' products, right? So of course, here you will need the research and the development department, right? So of course, at the end of the day, if it is the product differentiation, then you'll be looking at who can tell us what kind of organization structure should be adopted in this perspective. I know it looks like a lot, but at the end of the day, we know that if it is focusing towards products, then you may be directing towards, you will be directing towards a product organization structure, which is under division, which is under divisional organizational structures, right? So of course, at the end of the day, we realize that it could be a product differentiation strategy that the business is adopting, but the question would be, is it satisfying the customer's needs? So if it's not satisfying the customer's needs, then you may need now to add to integrate it again now with the what we call customer organization function, which we have seen, whereby we shall have different line managers handling different sections of customers. So that's how maybe here you'll even the business will even need to use a hybrid organization structure that we saw, or that we have just seen, right? Then we have those organizations that have a growth strategy of what we call supporting a focus strategy. Supporting a focus strategy, basically here, it is a marketing strategy whereby these firms, these businesses will be aiming at provision of goods and services in line with the market niche, in line with the, for example, providing these goods and services to the youths, to the females, the upper class females, to different geographical location. Basically, it will be about the market segmentation for those of us that have done some marketing. So basically here with the focus strategy, it is basically market segmentation here, where the farm, the business or the business firm is targeting towards providing goods and services to a particular market segment, for example, in terms of age, in terms of sex, in terms of geographical locations, and so on, right? So of course, there at the end of the day, it will be a divisional organization structure, because we have seen that with a divisional organization structure, it is divided basically in 3 categories, where we have the product organization structure, we have the customer organization structure, and finally the geographical organization structure. So there you have no option. The farm or the business will have no option but to use a division organization structure. So we are looking at all these. This is practically developing a blueprint for the organization structure to adopt. And later on, the third step of developing a dynamic organization structure is optimizing your organization structure. And of course, optimizing is to boost, right? To boost, to support this organization structure that you would have come up with, All right, until next time, thank you for listening.